Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about vitamin B12. This essential B vitamin is so important for our nervous system and for optimal body function. And I want to dive into it today so you can learn about why you need to take it and the importance of it. Before I continue, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so I can keep making you guys more awesome videos. Let's get started. So, what is vitamin B12? It is one of the B vitamins, obviously, but what we need it for in the body is for two processes, methylation and myelination. Methylation is a process in which the body goes through a whole series of biochemical reactions in order for our nervous system to produce specific chemicals called neurotransmitters. These neurotransmitters are things like dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine. If you've heard of any of these before, they might sound familiar. If you haven't, these are, like I mentioned, very specific chemicals that our nervous system needs in order for our bodies to function optimally. So that is the process of methylation, but we also need vitamin B12 in that methylation process to help with DNA repair, protein synthesis and replication. So a lot of that very important blueprint that makes us who we are requires B12. Another really important function that B12 is necessary for is something called myelination. Around your nerve cells, you have these little parts that are coated with fat, or it's called myelin. And the reason why we need these coatings of fat is because when a nerve signal is being transmitted from the brain to the end organ, let's say it's your hand or your finger, that message needs to go very, very fast. The myelin allows for that signal to jump so it can get recharged at every skip and jump that it makes towards its end goal. However, if we don't have myelin, as that signal travels and instead of jumping, it will start to lose its charge and eventually the signal will die out and the finger or the hand or wherever that signal is trying to go, it won't get that signal. This is actually something called multiple sclerosis. So a lot of people that have MS, they usually don't have myelin production going on anymore. It can be for multiple reasons. The main one is that for some reason the body is attacking the myelin. But the good news is that supplementing with B12 can help to keep some of that myelin around for a longer period of time because it helps in that myelin production. Where exactly, though, do we get B12 from? What foods should we be eating? B12 is only found in animal products. So if you are eating red meat, chicken, turkey, veal, pork, anything like that, you are going to be getting B12. That being said, not everyone eats meat or animal products. And that's why it's very important that we supplement. And there are 4 types of supplements that you can find on the market for vitamin B12. I'll go through those 4 supplements in order of my not so favorite to my favorite. So the first one is called cyanocobalamin. This is a synthetic man-made B12. And the reason I'm not a huge fan of this is because they're attaching a cyanide molecule to the B12, and cyanide is a neurotoxin. Now, the research does state that small amounts of cyanocobalamin and cyanide in the body is still safe. If I don't have to take cyanide, I don't want to take cyanide. So I refrain from having this form of B12 in my supplement drawer or in any multi or any kind of supplement concoction that can include cyanocobalamin. The second type of B12 is called adenosylcobalamin. This is actually a really great version of B12. I just haven't seen it so readily available at the grocery store or at the supplement health store. I don't know why, but it's a wonderful form of B12. It has an adenosyl group. So what that means is it actually helps a lot with the mitochondrial function in the body. So what that means is in your cells, in every single cell, you have what's called mitochondria. These little mitochondria help to produce energy in the form of ATP. And we need these guys to work properly, efficiently, and optimally. And that adenosine in the adenylyl cobalamin will help a little bit more than a regular in that mitochondrial function. The third form of cobalamin is hydroxycobalamin. So this one is my favorite form of cobalamin. I know I just said I was listing them in order of my favorite, but this one's my favorite. And the reason why is because it's the form that I take. And if you are to work with me and dive into your genetics, a lot of the people that have issues with methylation, which I'll talk about in a little bit, they can handle this form of hydroxy as well as the adenylyl form of cobalamin that I just talked about with the mitochondria. So it's a really safe version to take if you want to get started with taking B12. I would highly recommend a hydroxy B12, but always consult with your medical practitioner or your functional practitioner about taking any new medications or supplements. Finally, the last version of B12 that you can find is the most popular, and this one is called methylcobalamin. So the reason why this one is the most popular is because this is already an active form of cobalamin that we would be taking as a supplement, so the body doesn't have to convert it into the active form because it's already active. The only thing that I don't love about methylcobalamin is that if you genetically cannot handle anything that is methylated, then this would not be the supplement for you to take. And unfortunately, a lot of people take methylcobalamin and they either feel worse or they don't feel anything. Rarely they feel better, I would say, for a short while until it doesn't work anymore. But the best way to know if you can handle methyl B12 is to look at your genetics to see how your methylation pathways are working and if your body can even handle it. It is a wonderful form of B12, but like I said, I would take it with caution and maybe dive into the genetics first to see if your body even likes it. The cool thing about B12 is that it actually gets stored in the liver. So unlike other B vitamins, which are considered water soluble, they get urinated out when in excess in the body because your body just doesn't need that abundant amount of B vitamin. But B12 gets stored, which is a good thing if you are a vegan or if you don't eat animal products, because you've had this B12 storage in the liver for quite some time, and that's considering you were eating animal products before, and your body can now harness that storage to provide the body for methylation and myelination. But that storage usually only lasts about 3 years. This is why supplementing, if you are not consuming animal products, is extremely important for optimal nervous system function and body function. How we test B12 is through blood work. So there's two versions of blood work that you can get done depending on which practitioner you're seeing. There is the medical interpretation, and then there's the functional health interpretation. With the medical interpretation and with the functional health interpretation, both of those ranges that we're looking at B12 with, they are both researched and they're both clinically proven to show that if you fall within this range, you are considered to be normal. But what I want to really differentiate here is that when you're looking at the medical range, the range of B12 for you to be considered normal means that you need to fall anywhere between 138 to 652 picomoles per liter. That is a 514 numerical range between those two numbers. So whether you fall at 139 or 651, anywhere between there, you are normal. And the reason I use those numbers is because if you go above 652 or below 138, then you are deemed to be symptomatic and there's a problem. However, in functional medicine, these ranges are still evidence-based and they're still researched and considered extremely valid, but the range is 590 to 664. That's only a 74 number range. So if you fall within that range, you are considered to be working at a functional, optimal level in the body. And if you fall out of those ranges, you are deemed to be deficient or in excess, depending on which range, the lower or the upper limit you're falling within. Now, that's a really big difference, 74 compared to 514. So that's why with all of my clients, I look at the functional ranges because I want everyone to be functioning optimally, not just normal, but they could still be symptomatic. So that's the difference between the ranges depending on who you're seeing based off of the interpretation. But how does your body even get the B12 from animal products? Or even supplements? Because your body has to break things down and use it all up. So what actually happens is when you consume the animal product or your supplement, your stomach acid has to be released and break that down. I'm talking about the animal product here in order to extract the B12. Now, there's a specific protein in your stomach as well called intrinsic factor, and B12 needs to bind to intrinsic factor in order for it to travel into the small intestine and get absorbed into the body to be utilized. But there could be a little problem with that. Some people don't have a lot of stomach acid, and a lot of the times it presents as acid reflux. So they're burping, and usually these people think they have too much stomach acid, but it's actually the opposite. They don't have enough. So what ends up happening is when you don't have enough stomach acid, you're not able to break down the foods that you just consumed in the stomach, and you're not able to extract the B12 in order to then bind it to intrinsic factor so you can run into a deficiency. That's why stomach acid is so important, because we really need to break down our food to the smallest macronutrient level so our body can recognize it and absorb it and utilize it to help with functional and optimal body function. So optimizing stomach acid production is huge when it comes to vitamin B12 deficiencies. And if we do run into a situation where we are deficient in B12, some symptoms that we might experience would be numbness and tingling in the extremities, like the hands and in the feet. And I actually did see that one time with a vegan patient. They were vegan for over 3 years, not supplementing with B12, and they couldn't understand why they were having numbness and tingling, which then went away once they started supplementing with vitamin B12. And also you can get something called pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia is when someone is anemic, so they do not have enough oxygen within the body. And pernicious just means that it's been going on for a very long time. And what ends up happening is your red blood cells, which let's say they were this big, considered normal before, they're now going to be this big. And the bigger the red blood cell doesn't necessarily mean the better. They're usually less efficient. They are not carrying as much oxygen. And essentially your body is trying to make things bigger to, work better because there's obviously a deficiency, but that is not the case. The body does not handle these big red blood cells that well in regards to being more efficient. And it's actually just going to be a detriment in the long run. And again, some symptoms that you might experience with pernicious anemia would be fatigue, dizziness, you could be faint, your organs are start to not function properly because they're not receiving oxygen and removing carbon dioxide waste. And again, that numbness and tingling can be experienced in the hands and in the feet. So it's extremely important that we are supplementing with vitamin B12 or we are consuming animal product and getting adequate B12. But like I said, I always recommend that you talk with a healthcare provider or your functional health practitioner in order to understand what the best method of care is for you. I hope you enjoyed this video all about B12. Again, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you at the next episode.